We welcome filmmaker and activist Colleen Thurston, joined by Lauren Haygood, Sandy Stroud, and Charlotte Robbins. Colleen, a Choctaw filmmaker from Tulsa, focuses on exploring the relationships between humans and the natural world, with a particular emphasis on indigenous perspectives. Colleen has produced films for the Smithsonian Channel, Vox, and has worked with federal and tribal organizations. Her documentary, Drowned Land, examines the cycle of displacement relating to resource extraction in the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. Colleen is also an assistant professor at the University of Oklahoma and serves as the project coordinator for the Indigenous video series Native Lens. Please welcome Colleen to the stage to tell you more about her work and introduce you to our other guests for the evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am really honored to be here, but I couldn't be here without these three women right here, Charlotte, Lauren, and Sandy. So come on up. We'll share the mic. Okay, sorry, the formatting changed a little bit when we imported the slides, so they might be kind of weird to read. But anyway, we're here with a film called Drowned Land. It's a documentary, and it features these women here along with other water protectors down in southeastern Oklahoma on the Kiamichi River. It's a very long bio about me, but we don't need to read that. And I will turn this over and let y'all introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren. I am a PhD candidate at Oklahoma State University. I'm working on my degree in geology, more specifically geochemistry, and my research focus, which has been my research focus for quite a number of years now, is what we call sediment water interactions, as well as thinking about biological systems as well. But basically, I look at how metals and other factors like control metals and how they move through different aqueous environments, whether that's surface water, groundwater, or in marine systems. And part of that work was also working on the Kiamichi River down in southeast Oklahoma, and it's been fun.
Hi, I'm Sandy Stroud. So I'm Choctaw and from southeastern Oklahoma, Push County specifically, and just have grown up around the Kiamichi River. And so it is my greatest honor to share the stage with these wonderful, incredible minds, incredible women. So just a little bit about myself. I am a veteran, and I haven't quite grasped the idea that I'm getting close to elderhood, as my colleagues call me. But the idea of protecting water, the idea of protecting our environment, the idea that our children are important and they need to have somebody to protect the environment for them. So that's where my heart is.
I'm Charlotte Robbins. Most of you guys met me earlier. I'm a landowner along the Kiamichi River. I'm also Choctaw and Cherokee, but I grew up my entire life. Both of my parents are from there. Both sides of my grandparents. We've been living there for a very long time. And my relationship to the water started when I was really young, and then coming back after being gone 20 years and finding that the river's under threat in my home and my family farm. And so this, follows me in my process. I met Colleen through this and Lauren through this, and Sandy and I were acquainted before.
So this is just synopsis of the film. But, you know, what the story really covers is the fight to protect the Kaimashi, which Charlotte kind of hinted at. And it also dives into our tribes and our people's deep relationship with displacement and resource extraction, and how those two things are intertwined. But maybe, Charlotte, can you tell us a little bit about those threats to the river?
So there's a multitude of threats. If you can see the Kaimash River in the far southeast corner. So that river is birthed in the Choctaw Nation, and it runs all 177 miles within the Choctaw Nation. And there's a Kaimash River basin under this. So we're consistently fighting for this stretch of very fresh water, that the upper part is not contaminated. And so they're constantly coming after our resources there. You know, we've got timber, we've got coal, we've got water, we've got wind, and somebody else is consistently coming in and utilizing that. And it's been a problem. You know, I think the straw that broke the camel's back was the water. You know, that's where we could all say, like, this has got to stop. So that's where we are. That's the stretch of river that we've been fighting to protect. And most recently, it's been 2 back-to-back hydroelectric plants. And they want it, and they want to get close to it, and they're not only capturing the water out of the river, they're taking water out of our watershed, out of a different basin, from different creeks. So this is our fight to protect that one little 177-mile stretch that is the heart of the Choctaw Nation.
I can kind of briefly talk about this slide. I'm from Tulsa, so, you know, my family's Choctaw. My family's originally from the Caddo area, but that's on the other side of the reservation. And I know many of you all probably know, but like the Choctaw Nation is huge. So just to go from like the Caddo Durant, right? Say it properly. Go from that area over to the Kaimashi River, that's still a matter of hours. So I wasn't, as a filmmaker, I wasn't familiar with this area. So I very much am having an experience of making this film, of getting to know this land, the area, the communities. And these challenges that I've identified here are what I see as the challenges from an outside perspective. So I want to be clear that, you know, as an outsider, I'm seeing these sorts of things. Like it's a geographically isolated area. There are no major metropolitan cities, unless you do count the metropolitan of Durant. That also comes with challenges of, you know, on that 177 miles of the river, there are multiple communities. So it's not like there's just one community that is facing the challenges on the river. So it's effectively a news desert. We as a tribe do not have free press. So anything that the tribe, you know, is publishing is very much under a certain agenda. And I'm trying to say that neutrally. I don't mean that to be positive or negative. That's just the fact of the matter. And also, you know, the major areas like North Texas, Dallas area, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, when I spoke about this work, when I spoke about the challenges on the river, people would respond and say, where is that? And so there wasn't a lot of interest over the years in covering the threats of this water source. There has been coverage, but not consistently until very recently. And, you know, then there's kind of a more recent threat about like backing the science. You all will see this in the film, so I don't think there's a lot to get into here. It's very clear. You will see, who does question the science that is meant to protect the river. And there's also, a lack of funding. Again, that going back to like being a more geographically isolated area, whoever, American Rivers or Sierra Club, although they are aware of the Kiamichi River, there's not a huge amount of funding coming in to protect this area. But there's also, what I encountered were a lot of stereotypes, and especially from people from outside this area of like, this is what's even there, right? Like, I'm sure you all experience that in your own communities. It's like, what is even there, right? It's like, well, people and water and animals and Mother Earth, right? So, as if like an area like this is not as worthy because there's not a giant city or there's not a huge population base or whatever that is. And, even as from a filmmaker, like I pitched this as a documentary trying to get funding, and, what I experienced was some pushback about like, well, don't people down there vote a certain way? So isn't this what they want? As if, voting it determines whether or not your cattle need water, right? That's been a big challenge, not only for the protection of this river, but also in telling the story as well. But I'm sure maybe some of you have something to add. We will also talk to you all after the film. This we probably can talk about after the film more, but I wanted to introduce this idea of intersectional water protection, and it coming from many different areas. And I think what I've witnessed from the three of you here, as well as some other colleagues, some other water protectors, is that there's not just one solution. Like, we do need hydrologic studies. We do need to understand the scientific measurements of what's going on in our water. We also need to understand things from a cultural perspective and a traditional way of looking at stewardship. And it's when these two things come together that we really can strengthen how we live together and how we view our relationships to the water. This concept of the intangible and the tangibles is introduced in the documentary as well. So kind of urge you all to look for that, not only in the documentary, but in our daily lives as water protectors as well, and what that could look like and does look like. Lastly, have we talked about the rights of nature today? Personhood? Okay, I had to miss Charlotte's panel earlier. I'm sorry, but sorry, I'm trying to think about what I want to say here. The rights of nature and acknowledging legal personhood for a natural entity like a body of water or a mountain or a grove of trees, whatever it might be, is one way of protection that I think I have learned a lot about, especially from Sandy and Charlotte, and that I think can be very powerful. I would like you all to speak to this, though. I'm not going to just talk myself.
Okay, so I brought about the rights of nature to these guys and said, hey, you think that we could do this here in the Choctaw Nation? I'm a huge fan of Casey Camp Hornick with the Ponca. She's unbelievable. She's a phenomenal actress, activist, elder as well. And I saw what she did with the Ponca. So, in my mind, if she did it with the Ponca, why couldn't we do it with the Choctaw Nation? And then why did it not work for her the way that she wanted it to work originally? And then how could we overcome that? So, like she said, it could be done for a multitude of things. And when you weave the culture into that, we're not only protecting the water here, but we're protecting our cultural things that grow along that river too, like our river cane, patches of sweetgrass that we have, natural springs, and those are all being documented as we go through this process. So I work with landowners. Specifically, that's my primary job is I work with landowners in the basin. And tell me what's special about your land. Show me your land. It's nothing you can see from an aerial photo or Google Earth. You need to talk to that landowner, get on the side by side and listen to their stories. And they'll tell you the craziest things. And you'll think, man, I don't think that's right. And then you'll start researching it and come to find out a lot of times that those stories, they're based in truth. And we find a lot of historical sites like that of my grandma or grandpa told me. So anyway, that just kind of goes into, but the rights of nature, it's really simple. It's really simple. You can Google it. It can be done like, she said, for most anything. But I think what I want to stress the most is, like, we as Indigenous people, myself living in the Choctaw Nation, I'm guilty as well. I think it's my government's responsibility. It's the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma's responsibility to help me. And that's not necessarily true if I'm not going to help myself. And then I also feel that way about our tribal governments. We do a lot of talking and we say these things are important to us. Water is important to us. Our rights, our sovereign rights are important to us. We have to document these things within our own tribe, within our own systems. We can't expect somebody else to uphold our verbiage. So while we might have our chief standing in front of you with a microphone, and he may say it has been our right since we have been on this earth to protect our natural resources. But do we have that written down somewhere? So make sure those things get written down, because it does make a difference. It makes a huge difference. So if you don't recognize them yourself, we can't expect anybody else to recognize them for us. And it starts here. It's simple. It's as simple as passing an amendment through your tribal council and getting honorary citizenship for whatever that may be, whether that's a waterway, whether that's corn, whether that's a sacred tree. If you have a cultural tie to it and it fits in this, try it. I mean, again, we can't expect somebody else to help us protect something if we don't want to do that ourselves.
So I came to Rights of Nature about 15 years ago, and I traveled to New Zealand, and I was able to see a river, the Whanganui River, and that river had the right as a sentient being. She was loved, she was cared for, she had a voice, she had a legal voice, all those things that they were able to do for this river, and they revered her as a being. And that experience is what I brought to the Kaimishi when we were first talking about what can we do, how can we go forward, how can we change where we're at. And the river deserves to be healthy. She deserves to have flow. She deserves to have energy. She deserves to have all the beings that rely on her to be healthy and to be happy. And that energy that's created with that love that we give her is reciprocal. It comes back to us, and it gives us health, and it gives us energy, and it gives us love. And anytime faced a trial or a challenge, we've always gone to the river, and in some way we found the answers. So, and if we're talking about the tangibles and intangibles, I remember being with this one at the river one time, and she has an incredible scientific brain. While I understand science, my brain doesn't work that way, so I'm talking about energy, but energy crosses. So the indigenous knowledge that I had, I said, health. She knows when the river's healthy. And I know when the river's healthy, just by the fields. And the way we interact with her, and the way we see her, and the way, the testing that you do can prove if the river's healthy. We're speaking the same, well, maybe not the same language, but we're speaking in the same terms. And that's how that strength came. All of us are woven together in a way that we bring different strengths. This one has an incredible legal mind. And then this one is a storyteller. And she takes our words and our thoughts and our visions, and she interprets it. And it takes all of us together to be able to create something that has the strength to stand up to what we needed to stand up to. And that's what you're going to see in the film.
I think that's a wonderful place to end. Thank you. I want to leave you all with a visual before you go into the film. I think we're going to start at 5:30. Is that right? Ish. We're going to get food, and then we're going to watch the movie. This strength of like braiding skill sets together. There was a moment sometime this summer, and there were those of us down at the river, and then we also had people from Choctaw Nation, government employees, and then we had our cinematographer, Charles, and then we had my child and Charles's child. And there was this moment where I looked around, and it was like everyone is bringing these skills together. The river brought us all together, and it created this moment of like a clarity, like this is how many people, like we can add people to this, like we just can like grow this circle of stewardship out. So, and I think a lot of times, like you work on a project, at least for me, like as an artist or a storyteller, you work on a project and it's kind of like, oh, this is what I'm working on right now. And that's not how this project has become like a way of living. And especially, I always have to talk about Charles, our cinematographer, because, think about, oh, you're just here doing a job. You're just recording this. And it's like, no, he's become a water protector as well. And that's the strength, I think, of water, of like pulling us all together and connecting us. So I wanted to leave you all with that. But yeah, we'll talk to you all afterwards and answer any questions that you all might have. And I look forward to sharing a meal and a movie. Thank you.